that Dan sounded so excited about.
Oh, baby. Jazz.
Okay,
jazz
let's
dude.
do this. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Was This Helpful, the show where we will never show you an AI summary because we are perfectly capable of misinterpreting the experts all on our own. I'm Eli. I'm the teacher. And I'm joined today, as always, by my wonderful co-hosts, Francie Davies and Daniel Pasto. Nope, sorry, it's just Dan, okay? Francie's a barista and a musician and an author living in the beautiful New York. The town so nice they named it twice. And Dan is a stop-motion animator and content creator living in sunny Los Angeles, California, a town upon whose niceness I shall leave it up to Dan to decide. Today, I have been told that Francie and Dan have brought me some questions, but first, would you two like to hear a story? I was out walking after a delightful day working in the middle school, and I didn't bring my phone. This is a new thing that I've been doing when I go for walks around where we live, is that I don't bring my phone or my AirPods. So I'm just like raw dogging a walk, okay? And I'm out, I go about a mile. And see, the thing is, I go about 3/4 of a mile, and there's this little voice inside me that says, you gotta walk a little farther. Something's waiting for you. And so okay, I'm gonna walk as far as Helen's house. And Francie knows where Helen's house is. Dan, do you know where Helen's house is?
No.
Probably not.
I don't think I know Helen.
Okay, so yeah, so Helen's house is just about a mile away. So I get to almost to Helen's house, and I look to my left, and the road falls steeply, or the bank falls steeply away towards this lake that's through the woods. And about 20 feet below me, as I look down the bank, is a Walmart shopping cart.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so listeners at home, the reason this is so strange is that, Francie, how far do you think the nearest Walmart is from me?
In miles?
In minutes.
30. 40.
Yeah, 30 minutes, okay? So I want you guys to just pause for a moment and tell me how this Walmart shopping cart got to the middle of bumfuck where I was.
Probably a series of trebuchets. Like
I think it
one
was
wouldn't be
ridden.
enough. You'd need at least 4.
It's very easy to riff on, okay? And I want you to know, listeners at home, once again, this really happened. It's in our front yard. I want you to tell me realistic
you
series
took the
of
Walmart
events.
shopping cart.
Yes.
That's great.
And that's the
You
sort
should
of
have.
that's the end of the story. There were some NPC interactions that I had to go through in order to get it back here. But I want you to give me a plausible series of events that would get this shopping cart to the side of the road. Because if somebody wanted this shopping cart, why didn't they keep it?
Someone put it in the back of their... Wait. Someone put it in the back of their truck. Then why'd they
Yep.
dump it?
They,
Maybe
they
it
pro-
fell.
Yeah, so
It was
Oh,
probably
they
Let's
were
strike one,
riding
Francie.
it down the hill. And then they got scared. and sad.
and what?
And left it.
So wait a second. So they brought it 30 minutes from the Walmart so that they could ride it down. It's not like a steep hill. There are steeper hills far closer and just as remote to this Walmart. So they brought it to a gradual hill far, far away, got scared, and then said, I'm hungry. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, so Francie struck out. Dan, give me your best shot.
Did it have anything in it? The cart.
No. And not only did it not have anything
Okay,
in it,
well,
this thing is brand spanking.
dirty was
it is
it?
unharmed.
Oh,
It
all right.
clean.
Oh my God, they
Recently
built
taken
it.
from the Walmart. No, it's genuine. It's mint, for sure. It's genuine.
Mint in box.
Yeah, it's VGA graded. Have a shot, Dan. How did it get here?
Well, somebody obviously fucking put it there. Meaning,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was probably like they needed it for a specific purpose, and then it fulfilled that purpose, and then they left it. So they like took it on their
You know what?
truck,
That
used it
makes-
for like however many hours they needed it, and then just fucking left it there.
That would be great, except for the existence of shopping carts significantly closer to here at other stores.
Well, no, they probably bought a bunch of shit at Walmart and were like, I should take the cart with me so that I can wheel it up to my place
Oh, that makes
Fro-
sense.
or something along those lines. And then
thing
they
is, like,
did it for a little bit
it-
and then dumped it. Then no longer
it's easy
needed it.
it's easy for me to say that this was a floating point rounding error and this is an asset that spawned in the wrong location. But in fact, somebody had to have a reasonable motivation, no matter what addled
Yeah.
brain state they were functioning under, to bring this thing all the way here. Anyway,
Maybe they
so-
needed it to get up their driveway.
Yeah.
it's
I
very
once-
hard to
you raise
push
once
a shopping
called-
cart on a muddy driveway.
I once
You
hauled
ra-
over. Sorry,
No,
I
you.
keep getting mixed up in who's talking.
You are the one talking.
I once hauled a lot of fish back from a river on a very long hike. Like a lot of fish. Like
In a
picture how
shopping
much
cart?
fish you're thinking and then double it and then maybe add more. But we did not have a shopping cart and it definitely would have been helpful.
Yeah, that would have been great.
No,
you would have
it
been able
wouldn't.
to take the
Shopping cart.
water. That they
No,
live in.
it's
those
a
fish
shopping
were-
cart on
we were
anything
watching them die. It was a weird experience. Anyway, shopping
on
cart would have
any
helped.
surface other than paved tarmac. A shopping cart is
Basically
fucking
useless.
miserable.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's actually like you would have come up
No,
with
wheelbarrows are
some
king.
bad thoughts. Yeah.
A wheelbarrow, yeah.
So anyway, this shopping cart, I remind you, is 20 feet below the surface of the roadway down a steep bank. So I think, and I walk about 10 paces away,
But it was
turn around
brand
and walk
new.
back and stare at it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying.
Well, it
so I
definitely
walk
fell down
away,
there.
turn around, walk back. Yeah. I turn around, walk back, and stare at it. And then I'm like, okay, Eli, you have to go get it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to stay there. This story cannot end here.
She's crying
just
out for
beginning.
help.
It's true.
She's crying out for help. She called me to her. And so I go down there, and luckily I have boots on, but they're not great boots. And I start to roll the shopping cart, not push it, but roll it bodily over and over up to the roadway. And once it's standing, this brand new Walmart shopping cart standing on the dirty tarmac road in the middle of nowhere, far from the nearest grocery store, let alone Walmart. It's just such an out of place object. I cannot with this thing. And so then I'm like, all right, now what? Because I don't want to push this a mile back home. Because as soon as I start to push it a mile back, there's lots of people on this road that know me. And so I'm going to have NPC interactions
Yeah,
that I
everyone.
don't know if I'm ready for. Yeah. And so I'm like,
But you can ride it.
maybe, but then
You can go wee.
no. So okay, I'm
Yeah,
jumping
so
ahead
it's-
because I thought, what can I do? I don't want to throw it back down the pit, so because that seems wrong environmentally. So maybe I'll leave it in Helen's driveway. Because, I know her, and she'll come home and say, oh, look, someone's gifted me a Walmart shopping cart. That's awful nice. So I get to Helen's driveway, and I'm like, oh, that's bad. I shouldn't do that. This is incongruous, and now I'm making her responsible for dealing with it. So I can't do that. Morally, ethically, I couldn't do that. So I have to wheel this thing home. And so I start to wheel it home, and it's so loud. I don't know if you've ever pushed a shopping cart on rough tarmac.
Loud as
It's
fuck.
the loudest thing. I'm not wearing my AirPods.
Yeah.
And so I have nothing in my ears to distract myself from the reality that I am pushing a brand new Walmart shopping cart down a country road as night is falling.
Well, no,
And so
you want to
I
do
go
it
a
at
li-
night, so no one can see you.
No, but it's still day. Night is falling. It's extra eerie. And it's like slightly cold. And so then I go about a quarter mile, and then Helen drives by, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a stop and a high, right? Because I'm pushing a shopping cart, right? She's got to be. Nope, she drives right the fuck on by, and I'm like, you know what?
Damn.
I feel
would
like
have been
I
crazy if
just
she
rolled
was
it.
like, "Hey, you got my shopping cart."
You're the one who got that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like I rolled a natural one on this reaction, on this, like, what Helen was going to do when she saw me. Because I got nothing, okay? So I keep going. After this interaction, I start to feel like this shopping cart isn't real. And the reason that Helen didn't see it is that I'm actually the only one who's capable of perceiving this thing.
The only one.
And so And the reason she didn't stop was she just was like, oh, hey, that's Eli. I'll wave to him and I'll go home, because that's just him walking. He does that all the time. And so then I'm about a quarter mile from home, and I see two people walking down the road towards me. And I think, okay, rub your hands together. Let's prep some one-liners. And so I'm working on the one-liners, and as they get closer, again, night is falling. I see that one of them is a man who's holding a rifle.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, oh, okay, so the stakes have gone up for this NPC interaction. If I don't make this guy laugh, he's going to shoot me and put me in the shopping cart. And so I'm getting closer, and as soon as I see the rifle, all of the wit of my one-liners just fly away, because I no longer know what to say to, he's a perfectly nice guy. He's just going hunting. I've met this guy before.
Nice gun.
But I no longer have any idea.
Nice gun.
It's a nice gun.
Say that, and keep walking.
And so, but I'm still trying to figure out what to say. And I get to about 45 feet away from him, and I'm like, when do I speak? When do I speak? If I move first, I got to get the first line in. But he beats me to the shot. He gets his shot off first. And he says, going shopping? And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I was shot in the heart because he stole my one-liner. And then I say, yeah, at Walmart. Which is just such a bad line.
Okay. That's
Oh,
okay.
you did great.
I embarrassed my whole family in that moment. And so
Well, what you could have.
I wheel it home.
All right, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Dan. I want
Does
to hear
anything
it.
else happen?
What could I have done
what
different?
you could have done?
Yeah.
What you could have done? You could have taken a bunch of cool sticks and put it in the shopping cart, and then people would be like, "Oh, he's picking up cool sticks and putting them in the shopping cart." It must be for an art project or something. It helps explain the narrative a little bit.
It does, but I didn't.
Like you're
think
going
of it.
around and you're
My
picking
brain
up
wasn't
cool
running
sticks.
super smoothly.
Yeah, I probably would have been like, well, I gotta put something in this shopping cart. I would have put some cool. It's rocks. I would love to put rocks in it, but that would make it too heavy. Because I would much rather have I would much rather have a bunch of cool rocks than a bunch of cool sticks. I think rocks are better than sticks. But yeah, I'd pick up a bunch of sticks and put them in the cart, and then wheel it home, I think.
That would have been good, but sadly I didn't think of it. And when I get to our muddy driveway, which is not that long, but it's also not short, I discover why people don't use shopping carts to move their garden tools around, because the little wheels of a shopping cart really dug in to the new mud of our springtime driveway.
Yeah.
And so I'm pushing and I'm feeling it in my glutes. And so I leave the shopping cart in the driveway with no answers, only secure in the knowledge that I have a story for the podcast. And that's the end. That's all I know.
Than in a wheelbarrow.
Also,
I know.
I've
I'm
never
100%.
seen someone walking down the road with a shotgun. That was my first hearing a story of that happening.
Yeah.
And it happened to be when you had a shopping cart, and he happened to say
that is pretty funny.
the funniest thing he could have said.
Yeah, that's a damn good line. I like that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he killed it. He killed it.
Yeah,
He killed me.
Of course he killed it. He
but-
had the gun.
I know. Oh, man. And what I thought of doing, instead of keeping, I'm definitely going to keep it, but what would be really funny, is if I brought it to Hannaford.
Oh, that would be a riot.
Because
should we get a
they're an hour
You'd turn
apart.
so many heads. You'd be the talk of the town. You'd be a legend.
Should we get a cart? No, we have cart at home. But there's that. It's just yeah. You want me to go? Okay. My question is, how do you talk to people who you don't agree with?
Oh,
And
fuck.
I have a little bit of context.
All right, so you is there a specific thing you want to talk about, or just in general? Because that's a big question with a lot
I
of
would
different
love to
answers.
talk-
Unfortunately,
She's got a little story, yeah.
I do have
Yeah,
a
let's
little
hear
story. I would love to talk in general, because I think that when we're getting down to how do we talk to people who don't agree with us, there's probably a formula that is similar, but we can narrow in
Yep, 100%.
rhetorically,
For this?
Yes, this came from a story. So preface.
Okay.
I really don't mind, and in fact really gravitate towards political arguments. I think this comes from like our family dynamics, always having like big conversations, also from where we're from, dealing with being around a lot of people who I don't agree with. I just kind of learned to like have the argument, and as deep as it gets, at the end of the conversation, we can still go on with our lives and like be friends. Which has in the past been something that, we're not going to be best friends if our politics aren't aligned, but we can definitely work together, and we can definitely like sit down at the table. This is just kind of historically how I've been. So, getting into this story, sorry, I'm feeling all disjointed, but I have a new coworker at my job, and it's 7 a.m. It's just him and me. It's really slow.
Okay.
He turns to me and he just goes, "So, you like Trump?" And I go,
Damn.
Oh no.
"No."
Opening it with the heat. Let's cut right to it. Down to business.
And
Yep.
like we had been talking a little bit throughout the morning. He asked me what I studied. I said mostly history. We were talking about history, and so I was already getting the vibe that he was not interested in the things that I was saying. And Jesus Christ, I don't know why he would ever listen to this, but because he would ask me a question and then answer it and then just talk over me. And so I was already having trouble having a conversation with him. And so I say, "Do you like Trump?" And he says, "Yeah, I like Trump." And I'm like, "Is that serious? Are you being serious?" Because sometimes he just says things and I don't know if it's real. And he says, "Yeah, I like Trump." And so we get into a conversation, and within 5 minutes, I'm shouting at him because he's not letting me talk, and he's like talking over me, and I'm getting upset. And this, I've had a pattern of having people in my life that our dynamic is we fight. Like I had another manager, another coworker in my last job who our dynamic ended up being like we would just fight about politics, and that's just what we did. And we weren't close, but we kind of like enjoyed arguing with each other. And so I can snap into that mode like pretty easily. I was getting frustrated with what he was saying because he wasn't making any sense to me. Sometimes when I talk to conservatives, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like,
well, that's just conservatives. Their views aren't based on anything. They live in houses built on sand.
That's how it felt. And so within 5 minutes of him saying
water.
that, I'm like finding myself like shouting at him. And this conversation felt different than other conversations like this I've had in the past because of kind of like the moment that we're in right now being so scary and so sort of like, oh my fucking God, this is real life. And I can't believe this person is saying this stuff. And it put me on edge for the rest of the day. And
yeah, I bet.
And I didn't know how to deal with the fact that it was upsetting me so much, and I didn't know how to move on, and I felt myself like needing to show him throughout the rest of the day like that I could be polite and that I wasn't going to be rude to him. And I'm just finding myself wondering, are these fights worth it anymore?
No.
As much as I might like them. And what would be a more productive way to have this conversation? If
this guy brings that shit up again, you say you're entitled to your own opinion, and you shut up and you do your fucking job and you go home and you don't let him piss you off. He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve this much fucking mental bandwidth. He just doesn't deserve any of this.
Maybe he doesn't.
So this is a trauma response, Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, that was a trauma response from you, right?
What?
What you just said. That reaction.
It's just telling
that,
her to ignore it?
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard what you know.
Well, I said it, but you have a more... Just tell me how it's a trauma response.
So you said it's not worth it. You do your job. If he brings it up again, you ignore it, I think you said, and you shut up and you go the fuck home.
Yeah. That's the number one thing that I recommend.
Yeah, so my question is, how did you learn to recommend that? How did you learn that that strategy was like a winner?
Well, it's not exactly political. It's not all. It didn't have to be a political discussion. It's just anytime you fucking butt heads with somebody at work, it's just you're never gonna change anyone's mind. You're no matter what you do, you're never gonna change anyone's fucking mind.
Okay, great. You said that like you butt heads with somebody, you're never gonna change somebody's mind.
Yeah, when you butt heads with somebody, it doesn't even have to be at work or anywhere. If you're butting heads with somebody, you're never gonna change anyone's fucking mind. It's like 1 in 10 that you're gonna say something and someone's gonna like fucking listen to you. Like they're just saying shit. People just out here saying shit. And
Yep.
this guy sounds like a babbler at work. This work guy, whatever his name is, sounds like a real babbler. He's just like just fucking running his mouth because he loves it.
Startling.
He's not he's not trying to learn. He's clearly not trying to learn from you, or he would let you talk.
So why do you think he brought it up? Why do you think he brought it up?
Because he's the type of person who loves to piss people off. I don't know. He sounds like a fucking fight douche. Sounds like a man. I don't know.
I sort of doubt that. Like, or at least maybe I
Really?
don't understand that reason. Like, I'm not sure I understand what you said. You said,
He's bored at his job and he wants to rattle the cage a little bit. Or
I
maybe
actually don't see it like that. I think that he was genuinely trying to connect, and I think that he just maybe doesn't
Really?
know how to talk to someone like me, because I was feeling
Well, that's not how to
for
do
the
it.
past few days that no, it's not, but honestly, I kind of did give him, something back. I got into the argument, and I had been feeling that he had been trying to kind of make friends, and maybe just I also don't really know if he knows how to like necessarily talk to like girls, because he just in some of his language I think he might sort of have like a more man focused worldview, but I think that since he had some interest in talking to me, I felt like that pulse of humanity in him, and just the way that he ended up talking to me was not the way I appreciated. I also think like psychologically, I think there is, or maybe is, some way to break through even a wall as strong as that, and that's kind of what I was
such a
wondering.
fucking
Or we can,
that's such a difficult. There is a way through, and it takes a very long time and a lot of patience. And
Yeah.
if you're trying to fucking deal with if and it's kind of the thing that can't be done at work, really. It's like you
Yeah.
need to talk for such a long time, really, to get through to somebody, and they have to want it. And I'm just not convinced that this guy actually wants it.
well, so let's bring it
So-
into it. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, Francie.
Well, we can bring it into another, because this is just what made me think of this question. But I was thinking of other ways to apply this question of like, how do we talk to people we don't agree with? What if it's someone that you, what if it's another liberal? What if it's another lefty person who you have some disagreement with over some political thing, but you're nominally on the same side, you share a lot of the same beliefs, but maybe you disagree about something like, I don't know how, like, I don't know.
Sure.
Shoot, I was going to say, what if you agree about Israel-Palestine, but I don't know if we want to use that as a hypothetical, because it's, like, so intense.
Well,
I mean,
so
I'm down, but whatever.
So you're asking, how do we talk with them, not how do we change their mind so they think how we think? You're asking, how do we talk at all?
Well, I would love to change their mind.
Well,
Like,
here's
like
the thing, Francie.
I think I'm right.
You don't get.
So,
Yeah,
Dan,
of course,
can I ask
of
you a
course.
question?
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
question is, how does Francie think? We want him to think
don't
how
ask
she
me.
thinks. Well, so I think so. It might be a little bit of a read my mind question, but if we're saying that we want this guy to think how Francie thinks, I'm curious. Francie too, chime in on this. Like, how do we characterize the way that Francie thinks that we want this guy to align with, because Francie's not thinking in a partisan way. She's not thinking, certainly not Democrat, and she's not even thinking like everything Hassan Piker says is true. Okay, it's more like, what is the way that Francie thinks that we want this guy to think like?
I
Dude,
would just love it if we were looped into the same set of facts.
Well, the fact of the matter is the facts that you align with are the same facts that he has available. And what it means is he hasn't pursued them. This guy. So how do you change his mind? How do you change his mind? It'll be difficult for you to change his mind. But if this guy is as male dominated as you think, it may be the only real way to change his mind is to get a dude to tell him the same shit that you're trying to tell him.
I just have trouble believing that there isn't some way of, and I do think time, when you're saying it'll take time.
Yeah, you never get to show up to you never get to show up at anyone, at anyone's house and just like get them to fucking see the light. You don't ever get that as an option.
And
Dan,
I had a friend.
Do you want to change this guy's mind, or people like this?
Do I want
coworkers, if you ever encounter something like this, do you actually want? If you were in this situation, would you want to change this guy's mind?
No, if I was in Francie's situation, I would say you're entitled to your own opinion, dude, and then I'd clean the fucking cups.
So here's an interesting question. Dan. Why not?
Because I just don't fucking give a shit. I don't know. This guy has decided
so this is why
that he
I call
wants
it a trauma
to be
response.
wrong.
So this is why I call that a trauma response, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that it's perfectly valid that you don't want to change this guy's mind. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's acknowledge that that's the position you're coming from, is that you actually just want this guy to rot. And it kind of makes sense because he's in favor of these horrible things, But this is like what you want. Is that fair to say? Is you just want this guy to shut up and leave you alone?
I'll tell you. So the leading cause of my decision-making process is not I'm in a room with a guy who disagrees with me. My leading thing is I'm at work with a guy who disagrees with me. And when I'm at work, my at work mission is greater than my other mission. When I'm at work, my mission is to make it's like the laws of robotics or something. They like work circumvents what I actually want. Like when I'm at work. When I'm at work, I want to show up at my job. I want things to be civil enough. I don't want to get angry. I don't want anyone to get mad at me. I want to be able to work with these people. And then, so what? We disagree about some shit. Then we leave at the end of the day and go hang out with our actual friends and do the things that we actually want to do. I want to keep the environment as workable as possible.
I low-key
Dan,
think
I want to acknowledge that you might not. Well, yeah, I want to acknowledge, Jen, that this is a question you might not want to answer, and that's totally fine. So maybe this is just something for you to
that is my answer. That is my full answer.
No, I have a new question. So I'm curious. Like I said, this might not be a question you want to answer. That's fine. Just something to think about is like, where did you talked about like Asimov's laws of robotics, but for yourself when you're at work? When did you write those laws, and what was happening in your life? When
I didn't write them. I didn't write them. They just appeared, or they, like my law of when I'm at work, my real mission kind of fades away, and I want to keep things kind of civil because it's like
Can you tell me a little bit about when they
guy.
appeared?
Probably the first job I ever had was where it was like if somebody disagreed with me about something, it would just be like, well, I don't want to get into a fight right now. I just kind of want to do my job, collect a paycheck, and go home.
When did you learn that conversation was going to turn into a fight?
Well, I didn't learn it there. I learned it elsewhere. It just like...
That's my
It
theory.
just seems more and more obvious that like when you're talking with that, like this kind of discussion is just going to naturally turn into an argument.
It does seem more and more obvious, doesn't it? So with that in mind, let's go back to Francie.
Okay.
So, Francie, do you want to change this guy's mind? Sounds like the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think he seems like an interesting person, and I think that I'm very interested in like, for context, his brother also works there, and they have very different opinions, and so I'm interested in the phenomenon of his life and how he came about those opinions. We're from a very conservative area, and I think the reason that I'm okay with the fight is because I had to be okay with the fight, because we were gonna argue, and then we were gonna eat lunch together. And like that's just kind of like, okay, we're shouting at each other and then you're going to drive me home. Like it's we're not going to be best friends. You're not going to be who I call, but the fight is going to be like, okay. And I would love to know like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like we're the same. And
Same
there's that
species,
part-
right?
Right, same species, same everything. And there's that scene in The Mandalorian where the Tusken Raiders and the people from that one town like get together to like kill the crate dragon, and I always think about that as like when the libertarians and the communists will ultimately come together to like overthrow the government. It's like we're all
Any day
fighting for
now.
the same world, and I would love to know how you got there.
Yeah.
And yes,
So
how
let
I
me
can
ask you
bring
something. I think we can.
to-
I think we can help you with that, because how you got there and the ultimate answer to this question, which is like, how do you talk to people that disagree with you, that you end up in conversations like this, that kind of person in your life, how do you talk to them, is the same question of like how they got there in the first place. So in order to approach that, I want to ask you, Francie, something was missing from your conversation with this guy. Do you think that you could put a word on what that thing was?
one word.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be right. Just give me something.
I mean, the word that comes to mind is respect. I think he wasn't respecting me, and in turn, I don't think I was really respecting him, because when you're raising your voice at someone, which I was, like, okay, my hands in
Of
the
course
air.
you were.
I was. Because he wasn't letting me speak. So that's the
Yeah, that
word
would piss
comes
me
to
off, too.
mind.
Awesome. That's a
But
perfect
I can't
word.
say
So,
I've
Francie-
ever changed someone's mind through respect, and maybe that's just because I haven't.
Ah.
Have you all
Very good.
also
So, but
have you
let's-
ever changed
let's
anyone's
run
mind by
down
yelling
that.
at them?
Well, let's
No,
run down
but
that
I
path
think
for a second.
one thing about that, I could conjure up, and I think this might have happened where someone was yelling. I think if someone's yelling at you, and something they're saying resonates with you, I think that maybe you do go home and you think about it, and eventually you do change your mind. I don't know. I feel like that could happen to me.
That's fascinating, Francie. We'll get there, but first, I just want to ask, like, so your word for what was missing there is respect. Okay, so how do you show someone that you respect them? Like, what were the actions that were missing from the conversation? Now we can spin that one word out into some more words.
I think that like what comes to mind right when you ask me that is I wish we were looking at each other as like equals, and I mean that literally. I mean like on the same level, eye contact, with some understanding that we think of each other as like people.
Okay.
Like so body
So
language,
you
I think
gave a
is
great
part of it.
Yeah, so what kind of body language? Eye contact is one thing that you said. What else?
I
Dan,
think,
if you ever have had a good version of this conversation and you can recall things that were present or things that were absent from the bad versions of this conversation, like you can throw those in too.
I don't have any good versions of this conversation. All my versions of this conversation are people yelling at each other, and then they get mad, and it's harder to work with them. I don't have
I mean,
I don't
I
ever
was
have an example of people talking it out in a polite manner at work, and then someone changes their mind. I have no experience with that.
I was
mean,
going to
like,
say that's great. It's not great, but like it's great
it's just
because
how it's been for me.
I have a lot of hope for this conversation. So what do you think, France?
Thanks.
I think I was kind of positioning myself next to him in a way that I normally wouldn't. Like I was like, I think I was trying to like manify my stance a little bit, and like I was like just sitting in a way that I wouldn't normally sit, and I was just like trying to act like.
Can you
something
throw
that
some
I-
descriptors
Because you
at
know
me
that this
for
guy
how you
only
were
listens
sitting?
to men.
It seemed that way, yeah. But I was like sitting in the chair, like with my legs spread open, like man spreading or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's how men sit.
And then, but I don't think I was like that the whole time. I think that you, Eli, or both of you probably would have recognized the person that was like there talking, because I don't know, things can get heated. But I was kind of trying to posture myself like I was like big.
Yeah,
and
so
not really
you talk
being,
about a
like,
lack of eye
authentic.
contact. You talk about a big body. You talk about body language that felt alien to you. So one thing that you saw as missing was the eye contact. Can you think of of other things that were like, and we can get off of this too. If you can't think of anything, that's totally fine. I can pick up I could carry some of the weight, because you've been doing great. But what, like, can you think of anything else that was absent from the conversation that would have been nice if it was there?
How about a connection?
Yeah, sort of what I was
Yeah.
thinking is like any pauses between our phrases to actually think about what the other person said.
Beautiful, Francie. Dan, is there any other aspects of a connection
Well, I mean,
that
what's
you could think
happening?
of, like descriptors?
I mean, okay, I don't know really what it is that you're asking me to do. I'm trying to describe
What does
how
a connection
people connect.
feel like?
Well, when you're arguing, it's like you're not like things you say go right through them or right past them, and things they say go right through you or right past you. Nothing you say is going to land. Nothing they say is going to land, because you both just dig your heels in and just believe what you believe harder,
Beautifully put.
which means that
Awesome.
you're not in an environment where ideas can actually be exchanged. You're you're having a slugging match, and it's a waste of time.
Yep. Absolute. Beautifully put, Dan. So a couple of things that you said. You said that you're in a state where ideas go right through you or right past you. You talked about people digging in their heels, and you talk about a lack of exchange of ideas. And Francie, you talked about you both immediately, so like there's this lack of connection, right? There's no connection, and Francie dinged this thing, which is like, for some reason we weren't pausing, right? Now this is kind of a stupid question. Why weren't y'all pausing?
Well,
'Cause you were heated.
I think I felt that he was doing the that logical fallacy where you just keep talking and talking and talking, so your arguments like can't ever be responded to by the other person. I forget what
Classic
it's called.
tactic.
I felt like he was
Yeah, I
doing
don't know either.
that, and so there's a word. It'll come back to me at some point. But
No, just like the barrage of, if I can't hear you, it must not be true. I can't hear you. You're not there. La 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 la.
and so
Childish.
I was taking probably like days and weeks of pent up rage and fear, and I was putting it on him. Like,
That makes
like
sense.
this person almost represents exactly what I've been mad and
So
scared
scared
and
of.
sad about and
Yeah.
talking about at work for the past because I think that he had been listening to me talk about stuff with my other coworker for like the past few days, and he wanted to like
So he
let
opened
his
the he
heart
opened
be
the
known.
discussion with So you like Trump?
even though he
That's
knew
how
I was
that tells
no
you right
one
there
looks
that
at
this
me
guy's
and
like
thinks,
a fucking
oh,
dingus.
she likes Trump.
Yeah, no.
No one has
you don't
ever
you
looked at
don't
me and
look
thought
like a
that.
Trump girl.
Like
You don't look like a Trump girl.
so yeah, he wanted to
He wanted to get in a fight. That's why you got in a fight.
and he
Because
was
he
like,
wanted it. It's what he wanted.
So that's the second time you say that, Dan. Are you sure about that? Because that wasn't Francie's experience.
You don't start
so
an
I'm
exchange.
curious.
You don't start an idea. You don't start like an exchange of ideas. But so you like that thing you hate that I know you hate. Like that's not how you discuss anything. This guy didn't want a discussion.
I'm just
So, great
not sure.
Hang on one second, Francie. Sorry. But so if this guy wanted, because we were talking about what was missing, Dan. So if this guy wanted to have a productive version of this conversation, like how would he have started the conversation?
Hey, so I know you like that stuff you like. I've been hearing you talk about. So, you know, I've been hearing you talk about these things that you like, and I got to tell you, I feel like things may not be that way. Like he would start it like that. He wouldn't start it like a fucking numbnuts.
Yeah.
Hey, you like
That's
that thing
awesome,
that you
Dan.
hate? Like, no, he's a numbskull. I don't respect anything about. I don't know. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he.
I
Sure, he's
think
a great dude.
Yeah.
that's what
So,
he
but Dan,
wanted. Sorry.
no, that's fine, Francie. Go ahead.
I suspect the vibe I was getting was more that he wanted a conversation and didn't know how to start it off like that. And I may be totally wrong. He might have just been wanting to rile me up. Like, maybe. But
Well,
I guess
if you
maybe I'm
wanted-
choosing not to believe
How
that
old
about
is this
him.
guy?
He's in his early 40s.
Early 40s. He should know by now that that's not how you fucking do it. What that suggests is this guy might be neurodivergent. You know, might be a little
That's-
on the spectrum. Probably just doesn't know. Like, if you go that long and don't know how to talk to people, that's because your brain doesn't work that way. And it's not
And I
any
would
fault,
just-
through no fault of his own.
I would love to, because I feel that I have the capability, or something in me is kind of built for it. I don't mind having these conversations.
Yep.
I actually like having these conversations. I wouldn't
This
mind
wasn't a
being person in
conversation.
his
This was
life.
an argument.
I know, but I wouldn't mind being a person in his life that he can have that conversation with.
That argument with.
No. I'm saying I wouldn't mind.
You
he
wouldn't
wanted
mind
to
if
make
the
that a
situation was
conversation.
different than the situation was. If one day
Yes,
he
and I would
decided,
like-
hey, you know, I want to talk. I want to be rational. If he did
I'm
that, he
saying-
wouldn't have fucking started it that way.
And that's why I thought of the question. I'm thinking, how can we make, not even necessarily talking about him. I feel like there's going to be dozens of other people who I am going to have interactions with, like this with. How do we make more of them conversations and like less of them fights? Like that's
Well,
why
if
So let me
they,
ask you another.
The
Let me ask you another
psychology of
question,
that.
Dan. We're gonna get there, Francie. I'm gonna go back over what you guys have said in a second, but before that, let me ask Dan another question. So I asked you if you wanted to convince this guy, and you said no, which I think is
someone in their 40s who
great,
likes
probably
Trump
true,
and only listens
right?
to dudes, I mean, I have more
Fuck him,
power
right?
here. He might listen to me. Because if he
Yeah. So my
if he likes
question to
Trump, he
you,
probably
Dan-
only listens to men.
My question is, do you want Francie to try?
No, I want Francie to save her fucking energy, save this feeling, use it for your art, go to work, collect a paycheck, and
Beautiful.
fucking leave.
So
That's
we're
what I
in an
really
interesting
want.
situation here, guys.
I don't
Because-
want that just for
It's
Francie.
so
I want that for
interesting
fucking
that you say
everyone on
that.
Earth.
because I feel like my art is so. I feel like for me, my art would feel a lot different if I wasn't willing to have that conversation. And I'm only talking about me, but I feel like part of my art is that outward facing part of myself, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think those conversations add. I think more conversations and
What I
more-
hear you saying, Francie, is whatever is missing from this conversation is present, or you want it to be present in your art.
and just in my life. Like I don't want to shy away from the conversation, and if
This
I
is
can
an
just
argument.
right?
That wasn't a conversation. You keep calling it a
Right.
conversation.
I think I was using conversation as like an umbrella term for when two people talk.
It's not an
I get
umbrella
that it
term.
was
A
an
conversation is an exchange of ideas. An argument
Well,
is just
okay.
two fucking chumps screaming until they get tired of screaming.
So
I think,
so
yeah, I'm trying
currently,
to.
Dan, do you feel as if you're having an argument or a conversation?
Right now, we're having a conversation. We're having a conversation.
So, okay, do you feel like there's an exchange of ideas between you
Absolutely.
and Francie right now?
I think so.
Help me understand. Help me understand both sides of that exchange.
Both sides. So what I see in my head is Francie has this belief. I have my belief, and we're kind of taught. We're kind of.
What is Francie's belief?
Francie believes that you can potentially change somebody's mind. Like in a. Francie believes that you could potentially change somebody's mind in like an instant or in
No,
through.
I don't.
Okay, then what is it that what is it that you believe?
I believe that there is a way to change someone's mind, and it cannot possibly be in an instant. I think that there is possibly a way to make someone think differently, and I know this. I know this to be true because I find my beliefs to be very changeable, and I have changed my
beliefs are
worldview
changeable
on
too.
things very
I have a
much, and it's and maybe I have some sort of transparent barrier in my brain that ideas can fall through, and other people have, an opaque barrier that things can't fall through. But that's changeable. You can change that from a concrete wall to like a net. And I'm picturing something that things can fall through versus something things can't if the metaphor is not working. I think, and it's something that I don't mind about myself, is that I can change my beliefs. I want to. I would like to. I want my beliefs to be as close as I possibly can to my basic, my core tenets, my basic moral compass. And
What do you think are the chances that this coffee shop dude also thinks that?
Fucking zero.
The chances that he thinks that is higher than the likelihood that he can right now.
I think this
I
guy
think
he
thinks
might
I'm
think
right,
that he
you're
can.
stupid.
I think he thought that during the conversation.
Yeah, but she argued
But
so good.
in
and
his
now he's
own
open to
head,
it.
No, I didn't.
in his own head.
I felt bad all day.
So the other way
yeah.
around.
No,
but Dan, in
yeah.
his own head, do you think that he tells the same narrative about the changeability of his opinions as Francie tells about the changeability of hers? In his own head,
Well, I really don't know this
on
man.
his own podcast.
on
well, but
so
we can guess.
I only have some information on this guy. I only have so much information. I know he works at a coffee shop. I know he's in his early 40s. I know he has a brother who disagrees with him. I know, how long has he worked at this establishment?
He's been there a few weeks.
A few weeks. Okay. And he's just been hearing you talk about Trump and Elon Musk and other people. And in New York, this is pretty liberal. Like, I mean, a lot of people probably agreeing, and maybe he feels like,
Yeah, but
these people don't. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's anywhere where there's a lot of people, you're going to get some Trumpers. But so I feel like this guy is the kind of guy, like, I feel like if he is in his 40s and hasn't learned how to start a conversation, then he's on the spectrum or he's a menace.
Or both. And I think
So,
if you're a menace...
Dan, it sounds like
Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. Continue.
Dan, it sounds like what you're saying that is that basically there is maybe a transferable skill, which is how to have this kind of conversation in a reasonable way. But this person doesn't have this transferable skill. Because he doesn't have it, Francie is sort of on the hook for dealing with the fallout of him not having it, and that sucks. And you acknowledge that it sucks. However, it's not Francie's responsibility or even necessarily Francie's power to give him that transferable skill and at the same time maybe have a chance of changing his mind once he figures out how to go from a fight to a conversation. Francie doesn't even necessarily have the power to do that, is what I hear you saying.
No, I don't think he wants it.
Yeah.
Well, what if I don't care what he wants? What if I don't care?
Well,
and what if there's
so
some
all that
method-
matters,
We'll get
if
there.
you want
I could
him to change
develop-
his mind, all that matters is people only change their mind if they want to fucking change their mind.
I just
You do not get to break through. You can pound till the cows come home. They
I
will
don't-
dig
what
their
if I'm
heels in
not-
deeper.
Okay, I do understand what you're saying. I think what I'm proposing might seem a little bit fantastical, and I think it would not be pounding. I think it would be a long-term effort of small interactions, of saying things more like, I was hearing you talking with your brother about this, like what were you saying about that? I was interested in that. Or, consistently, I don't know what it is.
Okay, well, I guess
Well, I'd like to
step
reframe
one
this
here.
conversation
Step one here.
slightly.
I'd like to have my piece before we reframe the conversation. Step one here
Yeah.
is
Go for it.
this guy's got to like you. You have to prove that you're a likable person, and that
Yeah.
because seeing somebody who's likable, who believes something different than him, may be the first step. He's got to like you, and you got to not attack him. People don't agree with people that attack them. So this
Agreed.
will take a long time, and it will be a series of smaller interactions. And eventually, in time, maybe he will be ready to have a conversation and not an argument.
And I am okay.
Francie, does this person like you?
Yeah, I think so. I have no evidence to the contrary. He was
Other than
laughing and
that,
talking
other
with
than
me.
he went to you and said, "Hey, you like Trump?"
Yeah,
But
That's
Dan, let's
evidence
be
you need.
careful here. Let's
I
be
don't-
precise, because
I was reading that.
Francie's experience is that this guy likes her. So let's not necessarily discount that experience of Francie's and say that that's a misapprehension or misunderstanding of what's going on here. If Francie's experience is that this guy likes her, I think we kind of have to go forward thinking that, however incongruous it might sound, that this guy really does like Francie.
And also, I do have experiences and relationships from my past where people have come right out and said, or I mean, I have been, sorry, I know that I've had friends that like me, like being friends, are willing to kind of do things for me, who we fight about politics, and that's part of our dynamic. And so it's very believable to me that he was bringing it up not because he disliked me, but because maybe he did want to talk and didn't know how.
But it's
You have a
definitely
lot
true
more
that this
faith in
liking.
people than I do. You have a lot more faith in people than I do. I'm a burnt
this
out
is-
husk of a man.
I think that's okay, Dan, because where is faith supposed
Yeah,
to
that's
come
okay.
from?
Oh,
Where's faith come from?
I don't know.
Okay, so let's pause. Hard timeout there. Because you just said that the reason Francie has this belief and from the belief stems the willingness to do this is because she has more faith in the process than you do and in people in general. And so I asked you, okay, where do you get that? Okay, if that's what we need, where do you get that? You say, I don't know. Okay, so this is part of the thing that we need to decide, is where faith comes from. Because I think you guys can see how this conversation that resulted between Francie and this guy also really represents a lack of faith on both sides. If nothing else, the reason, like, why were there no pauses? Why were they not pausing? It's because they didn't have faith that the other person would let them speak, so they took up all the available airwaves. It's all about faith.
I will say, I know
Is that fair to
that's-
say?
I know that that's how I felt. I am not 100% sure that that's why he was steamrolling.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm just not sure if that's correct. I feel like sometimes I think it's
I think that's
rhetorical.
probably a safe assumption.
Right, but I'm the only one here on the pod that we can talk to.
Yeah.
Is that how you were feeling?
Yes, I was steamrolling because I felt like I would not have the chance to say my piece.
Right. So Dan, Is that fair to say that, like, or are you sort of riding with me that this is all about faith? Or lack of faith?
You mean the argument? The argument happened because neither person was willing to give the other person any space to speak. I'd say
and
that's
our
all.
own conversation is also about a difference in the amount or the level of faith between you and Francie, right?
Say that again.
You and Francie have slightly different points of view on this. And I think that you could summarize the differences in your points of view by saying Francie has more faith in this process and in people in general than you do. Is that fair?
Yes, either that or maybe an amount of delusion.
Right, we don't know, right? Because that's the nature of faith. If you don't have it, it
cynicism.
feels like delusion.
Yeah. It's either she's
Beautiful.
delusional or I'm just a mountain of cynicism.
Yes, let's find out. So,
Yeah. It's
I actually-
probably an amount of both.
right, or option C, let's find out. So let me summarize a little bit. What you guys are saying is you would like to see in a conversation that wasn't an argument, that was an exchange of ideas. And if I'm missing something, tell me. So you want to see eye contact. You want to see you guys having normal body language, okay? You want to see pauses to facilitate, and the eye contact too, to facilitate like real connection, genuine human connection. You don't want people to be talking past or through each other. And what we can infer from that is that when one person throws an idea out in this exchange, we want the idea to kind of stop at the other person. We don't want it to go through or past them. We want it to kind of be caught and in some way like absorbed by the other person. You guys also shouted at some really interesting things. Like when Dan, you simulated what this weird guy could have done that would have been wouldn't have set Francie on edge, wouldn't have led to this. Dan said the first thing that you started to do was to articulate Francie's point of view. This guy could have said, I've heard you talking about this, and I heard you talking about this point of view. So if he starts articulating Francie's ideas, then you're seeing that as more productive. And the final thing that you guys dinged out was this lack of liking each other, right? Where as soon as the argument starts, maybe whether or not you guys liked each other before, it became very unsoft. You know, everybody hardened their edges of their personality. And that seems very bad for like convincing anybody of anything. Did I miss anything?
No, that feels right.
That sounds pretty good.
Also, I think that what I said the same thing about how I would come to him is I would start by saying how he felt too. So I said the same
meeting
thing
them where
on the other side too.
Yeah.
I would
you
go
have
Okay,
to
so if you guys are
say,
enjoying
"I
the
heard you
episode
in
so
that
far,
conversation. What?
if you guys are enjoying the episode so far, drop a like and leave us a comment if you've ever been in conversations like this, and tell us about whether or not you have this faith, what you think we mean by this faith, okay? So the question is, how do you do that? And sort of a more broad question is, can you do that? So I want you guys to think about this for a second. My job as a substitute teacher is to convince people to do things that they don't want to do. Okay. When I'm given a bunch of worksheets to make a group of children do, they don't want to do any of them. So it's my job to convince them to do that, and I've got a couple of options, right? I could attempt to force them to do it, right? I could say, if you don't do this, I'm going to send you to the principal's office. And I have the authority to do that because I'm going to chop your cabeza and put it in la basura, okay? That's option A. Option B is I could somehow convince them to do it, right? And like there's like multiple trees. So like the option B is it's more than one thing. It's like option B and C, because one way to convince them to do it is to like somehow teacherly inspire with the depth and breadth of my passion for learning their filling out of the bubbles on the paper, Okay? This has worked for me maybe 3 times. Okay? They were great. They were fabulous, but usually doesn't work. Okay? That's option B. I could just be like Richard Feynman or Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku and inspire them with my oratory. And they're like, wow, how do we do some of that? And they're like, oh man, this worksheet kind of sounds like what he was saying. I guess I'll do that. And they start to furiously write on their worksheets. It has happened, but it's very rare. Option C is I somehow convince them to do it, even if they don't want to do it. So, do you guys think that I do that ever? Do you guys think that I ever do that?
Well, if you didn't,
'Cause
you'd be
I'm
bad at your job and they wouldn't hire you anymore. So you got to be able to do it.
Gotta be able to do it. Substitute
I mean-
teachers
Yeah.
are historically quite... Francie, speak.
Well, I was just like, didn't your class have like the best test scores in your school? I think that you got the kids to do what they wanted, what they didn't want.
Well,
Well,
see,
you
this is a
kinda-
different thing. Like,
yeah.
yeah, so
I'm just
I'm
saying,
talking
like,
about
obviously
just
you've done
subbing.
that. Oh,
Like, just this year, when I've been a different classroom every day, like, there's no relationship with the kids, and I'm also not designing the curriculum. Last year was different. I could design my own lesson plans. It was easier, in a sense, because I could create things that were inspirational, that weren't, I didn't even have to give these kids worksheets if I didn't want to. I could teach different, but that's not what's happening this year. This year, I literally have to convince a class of middle schoolers to do worksheets that they don't want to do. And I have 3 options. I could force, inspire, or convince. And I'm not going to force. I've never sent a kid to the office. I've threatened to send a kid to the office 3 times. But I've never done it.
and you
Yeah,
said
send the kids to the
Inspire
office
doesn't
ain't
work,
shit.
So
It works
you
3
convince.
times out of the maybe 1,000 or so.
Exactly.
So you're
So the other
convincing them.
997 times, you convinced them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so there are a couple of things that you guys are getting right. Because the thing about convincing is the kids don't always finish the worksheets. And so you guys have been saying this takes time, this takes time. It's not like it takes time. It's that sometimes it doesn't work. Or it doesn't work immediately. It doesn't work the first try. It's not like it's a process where you're molding something out of clay slowly. It's more like you're trying to hit a trick shot. And you're going to throw that card, try to get it to land inside that paperclip 1,000 times. It's going to work sometimes. And it's not going to take 1,000, but you know what I mean? It's not like it takes time. It's that it takes tries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Maybe
do it more,
you guys
it'll
won't
work
agree
more.
with that. I'm going to try to justify that. We'll see if it's a good metaphor. So how do you actually do this? It's very straightforward, and you guys have honestly already articulated a lot of this method. First of all, you must understand their point of view. You must understand. And you don't have to study. You don't have to research. You just say something like, so this guy, Francie, comes at you, you like Trump, and you're down to clown. And you're down to do this thing that your cousin Dan thinks is a little bit absurd. And so you're going to say...
I mean, I don't think it's absurd. I just wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So what do you guys think? You need to
I'm
understand
taking
his point of
notes.
view. He hits you... Yeah, but what do you say? So he hits you with the, you like Trump? And what do you say? If your first goal is to understand.
Why?
How would... so you'd say why?
Well, no, that I don't think so. I think that would be something I could
Why
say,
not?
but I think
Why
that
would
there's
you not
something
say
better.
that?
Because that's an invitation for a soliloquy that I'm not interested in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a pointed question. I think that my brain is almost close to thinking of something good to say. But why do you like Trump? No. So you like Trump? Yeah, I like Trump.
You would say, yeah, I like Trump?
No, that's what he said. I'm trying to figure out what I would say.
Oh,
And it's
what
gonna-
did you
My
say?
brain
Oh.
is slow. What exactly did I say? I don't remember.
Good
I
question,
need a
Dan.
minute to think. I need to visualize.
We'll give her a minute.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, actually, I started the conversation off in probably the worst way I could have. I said, "Is that for real? Are you being for real right now?"
Yeah, that's
I
that's
started the
great.
conversation
That's
off-
what I probably would have said.
I started the conversation off by basically saying, "I think you're ridiculous."
Yeah. I think you're an idiot if you think
and
that's
then-
a real thing.
And then I walked closer towards him, and I think I started getting into more of like, this is why I think
Great.
that's ridiculous, and this is why, and why do you like Trump? And then it. the back and
So what
forth
did you
started.
not do there? What did you
I didn't
start to do as soon as the conversation started?
Walked up to him.
Yeah, well, I asked you two different questions. You were about to say you didn't what?
I didn't take the time to understand what he was actually saying when he said that to me. Because you're saying
Yeah.
I need to understand
what-
what he's saying from the get, and I
Yes.
I didn't.
So now you could say if you don't want to come up with this, that's fine. I could throw some language at you, but like, what do you think you would say, you Francie, if your goal was to understand?
Can I think for a minute?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not thinking very good things. I think I could say something like, what have you gotten from that? What has Trump done for you? Or it could be something kind of like, well, what makes you think that? But I don't really think either of those are it. But I don't think I'm going to come up with it right now.
Yeah. You got one, Dan? Or you want me to throw one out there?
I would say no, not really. And then I'd go back to my job, and if he wanted to continue the discussion, I would react to whatever he said.
Cool. So what if you said, Francie, when did you start to like Trump?
Yeah.
So here's the big picture here. So we need to do a couple of things, but the most basic, like if you just want to understand how this conversational dynamic works, when you convince an anti-vaxxer to get vaccinated or vaccinate their kids, when you convince a Trump supporter to stop supporting Trump, how does this dynamic work? You are going to ask them an open-ended question, because when they could give you a time, but really you're saying like, what was the event? What was the thing that started you off liking Trump? Was it when he went down the escalator in 2015, whatever? Okay.
Yep.
Or was it, what was that event? Tell me about that. You're going to ask him an open-ended question. Now, you don't need to agree with him. You don't need to lie. Here's what you need to do. And you guys have already dinged this multiple times. You need to articulate back what he's saying to you. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can just say back what he said to you. Just throw some little paraphrasing sugar onto it, and you just say back what he said. And so
Wait, can I ask you a question?
then you're going to hit him with, of course.
Is that to let them know that you understand them, or is that for them to hear what they said?
You're letting them talk. All they want to do is talk, and you're going to give them that opportunity, and you're going to listen.
Okay.
I don't think all they want to do is talk, Dan, but I think that maybe that's not exactly what you meant even. I think all they want to do is be heard.
Yes, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah. This is super important because this is all anybody wants in America right now, is to be heard. So you're going to hear him. And when he says, I started to like him after this happened, it's very important. So this dynamic, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, I'm going to explain the dynamic, and then I'm going to explain there's another really vitally important element, especially if we want to understand the difference between you two when we start to talk about this, you and Dan. So the way the dynamic works is You ask an open-ended question. He says something. You articulate it. You ask another open-ended question, a follow-up question. He says something. You articulate it. You make eye contact. You listen. You guys dinged all these things that you have to do. His ideas are stopping with you. They're being absorbed. They're not going through you. They're not going past you. His ideas are stopping with you. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to do this for several rotations. And if it's a serious thing, like being a Trump supporter, you're absolutely right, Dan, that it's not going to take one conversation. I think that it's going to take fewer than you maybe guess, especially to establish what you guys started with when you were starting with what's wrong here, which is a lack of respect. In order to establish a good conversational dynamic and that mutual respect, I think that's going to happen much faster than maybe you think. Okay, in terms of convincing him, I also suspect that's going to be faster, but who knows? So for
because
the first conversation,
to have this type of sorry, I just wanted to say who's
no,
willing
beautiful,
to have
Francie.
this type
Cut
of
in.
conversation with him. I mean, like maybe it might think that, and yes, my rhetoric skills would have to be really on, but it's easy for me to believe that it might not take that long. I think because of this faith thing, and B, because who else has been willing to have this conversation with him? What his brother said was, yeah, oh my God, don't talk about politics to him. Don't talk politics with him.
So his brother doesn't even talk politics with him.
I wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, of course you wouldn't. Who would? This is
Francie.
how we lose these people.
Francie's
this
the
is
only
why
one
we
with
lose.
the fucking balls.
Yeah. This is why we lose these people. So, you're going to do this. You're going to ask, open-ended, listen, eye contact, articulate, ask again. And then, a couple conversations into the future, you're going to say, do you mind if I share what I think about this? Do you mind if I share my point of view on this? And so if you guys imagine a series of forks in the road, every time this guy says, let's go left, you go left. Every time this guy says, let's go right, you go right. Mm-hmm. Then eventually, a couple conversations into the future, he's going to say, let's go right. And you're going to say, actually, what if we went, do you mind if we go left? Is it okay with you if we go left? And because you've spent all this time listening to him, there's a chance, this is where you're doing the trick shots, okay? You're throwing the card, trying to get it to land in that clothespin. And if it goes in, he's going to say sure. And he's going to listen. If it doesn't, and sometimes sometimes you're going to say, this is when you know that the card didn't go into the clothespin. You're going to start to say, and what's going to happen to him? He's going to get all heated again. And so when he gets heated, what do you do, Francie?
I think that if we're trusting the process here, and I think that you have to keep listening.
So listen first, eye contact first, then what?
I mean, another respectful challenge.
Eventually. But remember, the fundamental unit of what you are doing, the unit of this process, is you articulating his point of view. So once he disagrees with you, yeah. Oh, yeah. So once he disagrees with you, he gets heated. You listen, you make eye contact, and then you articulate back to him. But when that happens, we got to talk about the other...
Quick.
Yeah.
What are you articulating to them? Are you articulating to them that they weren't willing to listen to you?
No. Like a chatbot. Yes, like a fucking badly programmed AI. You're going to articulate back, paraphrase if you want to, or just say what they said. Word for fucking. Word for fucking word.
Yeah. So
that's what you do. But when he gets heated, okay, and whenever he says some dumb shit, you're going to... this other aspect of this process is going to come up, which is that you don't want to have to do this with this man-child. This is not your job. You're a grown-up. You have better things to do. You're trying to make this stop-motion commercial, and it is not your fucking job to have this political conversation. I'm here to work. So
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Yes, my cousin said this might work, but I'm trying to live. Okay? So every time he gets heated, you're gonna get heated. You're gonna be like, oh my God, this sucks so much. So Francie, when you say you have to be on top of your rhetorical skills, I would say not at all. You actually need almost no rhetorical skills. Right? But you could just say what he said and then say your opinion once every 30 times he says his. And try to get him to go
You have
left
to be
when
willing
he
to
wants
play
to
the
go
game.
right.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to. Specifically when playing the game means you're going to get emotional. And because this is where we have to take a big step back and talk about like the nature of of MAGA conservatism. Because what does every single MAGA conservative argument, what is it designed to do? It is to stop people who are trying to do this exact technique. This is why there's so much content out there about people getting triggered. Because when you trigger someone,
To
this
overwhelm and
process
confuse.
is interrupted. Yes. So all MAGA arguments are designed on purpose through an evolutionary process to interrupt this loop. That's why they're so hard to do this with. It's very possible. But like, this is why we have to be aware that part of this process is sort of rational, where you're listening, you're articulating, you make eye contact. A huge amount of this process is emotional. Because these arguments are designed to make you mad. And I don't know if you guys can make this connection, but this is exactly the same thing that happens to me in middle school. Because the middle schoolers, if they get punished, they get out of class. If they get the sub mad, they don't have to do as much work, and they get the schadenfreude of making the sub mad. So all of their arguments are also designed to interrupt this exact process. So I also have to be on top of my emotional reactivity when I'm trying to do this in my job. How is this sounding to you, Dan? I'm curious.
How do you get kids to do a worksheet then? If you're not saying like, why do you not want to do it? Because it's boring. Okay. And then what? Then like 3 days from now you say, well, what if you tried to do it? Like how does that translate to it?
It's a beautiful question. I love that question so much. There's two ways. First way is I just nothing. I just don't do anything. I don't just do something. Stand there. And typically, this works for small group sizes about 90% of the time, right? For groups under 5. And for large group sizes, it works about 20% of the time. Because, and this is very strange, very strange. So it's hard to articulate the reason this works, but it has a lot to do with neuroscience. If I'm calm, if I'm just chill, then they're going to be a little bit more chill because there's some mirror neuron things that are going on there. And when people are calm, their frontal lobe is going to have increased functioning. And if they're going to do their worksheets, they're going to do it because their frontal lobe has increased functioning. So this is what works a lot of the time, is not getting the kids to do the worksheets, letting the kids do the worksheets. Not because they wanted to, just because they know that they probably should. They know that I want them to, and they're thinking clearly enough to go and do them. That's the first way. But the second way is...
So kid says, I don't want to do the worksheet. You say, what do you say? What do you do?
Right, so this is the second option.
Okay.
Right? Because at that point, I can't let them do it because they're not going to do it. If a class is really on that side of things, then I say, why? Like, help me understand, right? Because usually they don't just say, I hate this worksheet. They say, I hate this class, right? I've not just hated this worksheet. I've hated every worksheet I've ever gotten in this class. And I say, help me understand what's bad about it. Now, I don't sound super genuine, but like, I always really want to know because these kids are like often yelled at and they're treated not great by these teachers. So like, I genuinely like really want to know because I want to hear I want these kids to talk. I really do like them. Okay. And I want them to tell me like what's going on. So this is very easy for me in this context. because I want them to tell me like why they hate this class. But I say like, tell me why you hate this class. And I'm going to let them tell me. And we bounce it around. This teacher does this. This teacher does that. Did you hear that he yelled at this kid this one time? Did you hear that she always gives us worksheet? Did you know that this teacher doesn't fucking let us speak while we're doing worksheets? This teacher doesn't let us talk while we're all doing worksheets, and she's not talking. She makes us be silent. And I'm like, and I say to the kids, I say, holy shit, what the fuck are you? I don't swear necessarily, but except in very special circumstances. But I say, listen, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That's insanity. But the worksheets are still sitting on the table. So I go through and I listen to them. And every time they say that something is not fair and stupid and awful, I say, yeah, that's unfair and that's stupid and that sounds awful. And then eventually I walk over to the worksheet and I say, can you read me that question? Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? Does that sound crazy? Does it sound like it would work?
Sure.
Help me understand what you think would work about that. Would that work on you?
Well, I was a good student, but I always kind of detested it. But I did it because that's just kind of how I was raised. I was raised to, if a teacher puts something in front of you, you fucking do that. So you probably wouldn't need to convince me to do a worksheet. When I was a kid, I'd probably just do it. But yeah, I that sounds like a good move.
But here's the
Pretty good move.
beautiful thing.
You just let them go.
Yeah, the beautiful
Let them get
thing
the fucking
here is
anger
that
out.
it doesn't. Yeah, are you hearing me? Am I muted?
Yeah. No, you're fine.
Okay, good. So the beautiful thing is that it doesn't actually matter whether or not you've convinced somebody. The strategy is the same. If a kid starts to do their worksheets, I still suspect strongly that their teacher isn't perfect, because I've never met a teacher who was even... I used to say I've never met a teacher who was good. Now I've thankfully met a couple of teachers who crossed the threshold. But like very few teachers get there. So like I still want to hear from the dedicated, focused, good kids, like, what's this class like for you? Do you like this class? And I get really interesting answers. Sometimes I get very nuanced answers, right? I like this, I don't like this. I like this, I don't like it when they do this. They treat me okay, they don't like this person. They don't like this class. This period is good. I think that the period before us is really bad. Why do you think that is? Oh, I'm not sure. I think it might be because this student is in there. What do you think about that student that doesn't click? It's like the same fucking process. I'm doing exactly the same thing, whether or not I want to convince them of anything. This is the key. Is actually to let go of convincing. Not completely, not forever, but like you want it's I'm sputtering. I feel like you guys get what I was trying to say.
Sure. So what, the trick to convincing this guy to not support Trump is to just let him talk.
So not to just let him talk, to understand.
Yeah.
You want to understand what he's saying.
Because a very important part of the process that Eli put out, which I did take notes on because I lock in, is you're eventually you're going to ask, can I say how I feel about this? Like, and then whatever they say, you're going to still articulate that back to them. Which kind of reminds me of like mirroring emotions, mirroring someone's reaction when you're working with like children.
Very good. So Francie,
like,
what is that? What is emotional mirroring?
Well, one time I had this kid who, I was talking to you about this kid I had who was like a really, he was like a big problem for us one summer, but he was also like a really big joy. And so I was talking about him, and one time, and he would just scream at us. He would just start screaming. And when I told you this one story about how one time he was screaming at me, and out of frustration, I like did a soft scream back I kind of like, I went like, ah, like I was frustrated. So, like probably that volume, like not loud. And he was
Fuck
like,
yeah.
yeah, what happened then? And I was like, he paused for a second and his eyes went wide and he stopped. It's kind of like the idea of what I got from that was like you show them like what they're doing on your face.
Yeah.
Like if a kid is
This
crying,
is how you get terrorists to release hostages. This is literally their same fucking playbook. Go ahead, Francie.
Well, a kid's crying, 4-year-old is crying. You it's not necessarily what you want to do to smile and go, it's okay, don't be sad. What if you make a crying face back at them? I've done this a lot. You go, oh, you like kind of mock like you're crying back and you will see a different reaction. I'm not saying I'm good at this. I'm not saying I always do this when I'm working with kids, but you will see a different reaction back and it can be, really helpful. I'm not an expert.
So it almost sounds like this process requires a degree of comfort with your emotions being fluctuant, being fluid.
That sounds like a fair assessment. If you want to have
So how do
these
you understand what I
conversations-
just said?
Well, if you want,
Yeah,
if
go
you
ahead,
wanna
Dan. That's
have these
literally what I was
talks-
asking.
If you want to have these talks, these conversations, not these arguments, if you want to have these talks, you have to be really in control of your mind and how you feel. To be very reactionary is really not the way. You need to.
Yeah, I'm going to say a crazy thing, Dan. I think that's exactly right. I'm going to say the only thing that you need is to be aware. You don't actually need to be in control.
Yeah, 'cause
Well,
he was
no, you
saying,
do
I
have
can-
to be in control because if you fucking get mad at him, he's suddenly going to get mad at you.
No. I think that's
but
fine.
that's
I
not
think we
what
can
you
be mad
feel.
for 5 minutes.
So maybe, but that's not what I'm saying. I was saying what you have to be in control of maybe is like what you say, what you do, but not your mind, not your feelings. All you need to do is be aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're right that you can't like yell at them. Like that would if you yell at or actually no, that's wrong. You can yell at them, but you can't yell at them as an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
Right? This is what Francie learned. If she yells unreactively, if she yells but the yell isn't controlled by an emotion, then it works great, weirdly. I feel like that's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's not what was
Sure.
happening
Right. So
with
how
me
are
the
you
other
two
day.
feeling? Yeah, how are you two feeling about this? I'm curious.
I
I
mean,
think
no,
it
this
kind
all
of-
makes sense. Say
What
again?
makes sense about it?
Oh, sorry.
What do you mean? What makes sense about it?
What makes sense about it?
Like, yeah, I mean, you're never gonna change anyone's mind by fucking getting mad. People only like. I love it when people listen to me, so that's what you got to do to them.
Yeah. So I don't know if you just heard what I just did, Dan, and I wasn't really doing this as a bit, but there has been an something that's been happening in this conversation is that there is a sense in which I'm trying to convince you of something, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the conversation, I asked you one more time to articulate your perspective on this, and now your perspective aligns a lot more, maybe, I don't know, it sounded closer to what I think, but I'm still just asking you to articulate your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a neat trick.
What about you, France?
I think that it makes me feel we were talking about having a procedure makes you less stressed about going into situations. I get very stressed
Oh,
when I
fuck
think
yeah.
that I don't know how to have a conversation, because these are conversations I want to have, and not all of them have to be this inflammatory. Again, I could be talking to another lefty that we disagree on something. And I like to feel like the conversation is going somewhere, even if we don't get there necessarily. And I think that this conversation that I had a few days ago really amped up that feeling because I just felt like shit. It wasn't fun. It wasn't a good way to pass the time. It was just feels bad. And so I think
it's that sense of ideas stopping at you. That's what you really want, right? You want that connection rather than just passing through.
Yeah. And there's something else that I wanted to say because I feel like we might be nearing the end of this topic.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to say one more thing about this whole thing that I've always thought, not always, at one point I was a baby, but that I've been thinking about recently. I don't think that everyone should have these conversations necessarily. I think that if it upsets you consistently, if it makes you feel like I can't do my job, I just can't do this. This makes me really emotional. This is too much for me. I don't know if I think that you should have that conversation. I can think of people in my life who I just don't think that would be right for them. I think they have other things that they want to spend their time on, and I want them to spend their time on. I think that if
beautifully
you
put,
do
Francie.
feel like you want to have these conversations, I would invite you to think about this. But it's not something worth hurting your heart for, because I think that there are other people who can step in. You know, not everyone has to do
Absolutely.
everything.
And this gets into the issue, the conversation of karma and dharma, where like some people can, right? And so this is the point of this podcast episode, right? This is the point of this question, right? What is this question and my ability to answer it? That's karma. That's the hand that we were dealt. And so the point of this podcast episode is to equip people with better tools for having these conversations so that it's actually easier, but you still have to have like enough tools. Like Fritz, you're exactly right. Not only that not everyone should have this conversation, like it's not correct for everyone to try. I mean, you could try, but it's not correct for everyone to like feel that they should try to have these conversations, because I think you said it perfectly, better than I would say it, but I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Because I don't want people thinking like I need everyone to go out and be talking to conservatives. Like, no, dude, if that hurts you or makes you feel bad, you do not have to do that. No one like has to subject themselves to listening to like the onslaught of fuckery.
But I would say if you feel like you can, then this is like literally the problem. Like this is why we're losing.
Mm-hmm.
It's because people can't do this. So I feel like that's a good place to stop this topic. I'm super down to do another topic. How are y'all feeling?
I feel like I need to go to the bathroom.
Okay, Francie's going to go to the bathroom. While you're doing that,
I'll be back in
what'd you say, Dan?
2 minutes.
I said that's allowed.
Okay, perfect. While Francie's gone, I'm going to tell Dan.
I'm just going to leave my recording on, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
I've got a segment real quick.
Okay.
To do with Dan.
Right.
Oh, we're doing a segment.
We're doing a segment. So this is a non-sponsorship because I'm going to shout out a non-profit, okay? So I don't know if y'all heard, but recently the federal agency USAID was shut down unconstitutionally by the Department of Government Efficiency. So one of the things that this means is that if you feel like and can give money to a charity working in a foreign country, there's never been a better time to do that. And I have a suggestion, because there is a place on the internet called Good.Store, which is a nonprofit store where you can buy stuff, but you can also, they have subscriptions. They have subscriptions for soaps and shampoos and tea and coffee. And I've been a subscriber to the Good.Store coffee subscription since 5 minutes after it was introduced 3 or 4 years ago. And it's great coffee, shipped right to your door, pre-ground or whole bean, and all of the profit raised used to, now they finished it, they went to build a hospital for babies and mothers in Sierra Leone's Kono district at Koidu Government Hospital. The hospital is now built and almost fully funded, and the money from the coffee goes to fighting tuberculosis in the center of the tuberculosis outbreak in Africa. And a little bit of money goes a long way. This is normally priced coffee, so if you can, there's never been, not just to Good Dutch Store, but if you can, there's never been a better time to give to charities operating around the world. It's great coffee. I've actually given this coffee to your mom, Dan, several Christmases in a row. That timed out so well.
Welcome back. I'm still stretching.
I heard nothing.
Dude, it was so loud. You took the whole... It sounded like you took the microphone with you.
Yeah. It sounded like a fire hose.
No, I'm totally fucking with you. It was... No,
I know.
No, we heard... I was also talking the whole time.
Yeah.
I would be down to talk for like another 30 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Lay it on us, Pasto.
All right. I got a pretty quick one. Fucking olive oil, huh? Like, I know what oil is. Right? It's like fucking dinosaur goo. That's deep within the earth. It's like deep in there. And we like dig it out. And like pump it out. And then like olive oil, like, okay, so I guess it's like, what's the deal with that? What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Is it oil?
It's a beautiful question.
Is it like is it like really oil?
Yeah. It's a beautiful question. This is, so to be clear to the listeners at home, Dan's mom is a what, Dan?
Oh,
she listens to the podcast.
Lady. Does she?
She's a wonderful lady.
Wonderful lady.
Oh, she does. And she also happens to be
I'm stoked.
She also happens to be a chemistry professor.
And a chef.
So
yeah.
And a chef.
Both.
And a chef. Thank you, Francie. So I am going to fuck up a few times.
Yeah, we got a good thing. We got a good thing. Us guys. Us three.
I'm going to fuck this answer up at least a little. Okay, but let's do this. So
Laura, sound off in the comments below.
Yeah, Laura, sound off in the comments below. I want that on a fucking hat, not a shirt. I want a hat.
That's long for a hat.
So okay. Oil is the thing that those two oils have in common is that they're both in liquid phase and they both are polar, non-polar. And they're non-polar. This means that they won't mix with water. They dissolve a different range of things. And they also share the property of being slippery, which means that when they wet to things, they lower the coefficient of static friction down dramatically. And they also lower the coefficient of dynamic friction, but they add the property of fluid shear, so it complicates things a little bit. That doesn't matter. So were you asking like how we get olive oil?
I mean, we got to
talk about that.
We got to I mean, I guess it's just like crazy that we okay, all right. Did we have olive oil before we had like regular oil?
Like petroleum?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like petroleum.
So this
like,
is
definitely.
Great. So that is a version of this question that I have a much more thorough answer for.
Okay.
Or an angle on this question. So yeah, so oil lamps are the oldest form of illumination after burning wood fires.
Yeah, totally.
Oil lamps are the first time we manufactured something just for illumination. So you can have a stick and you can wrap cordage around it. There's this hilarious thing that Hank Green said once, which is that for most of human evolution, most of the hours spent by humans that wasn't like prepping food, most of the dead time that we now spend scrolling and making podcasts was spent twisting rope by hand, twisting like grass into cordage, because you need
Jesus
cordage.
Christ.
You can't build temporary structures without cordage. You can't make a bow without cordage unless you're using gut string, but there's still various aspects of hunting that need cordage. You need rope. And so
I feel like
much
I'd be
of
good.
human
I'd be good.
time.
I feel like I'd be a good rope maker.
You'd be
as
so
as
good.
caveman.
I made
feel
rope.
like
You'd be
I got
great.
the-
I've tried it.
got
I
the-
suck.
I got the dexterity. I can really fucking lock in. I feel like
That's
I'd be.
not that
I
hard.
feel like I'd be a really good caveman.
Me too.
Yeah.
Except I have.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
if I was
eyesight.
born now, I'd be a bad caveman because I'm like 30 and I don't know shit. But if I grew up in the caves in caveman culture, I think I would have made a great caveman.
I actually think
Yeah,
my
it's a
eyesight
skill
would have
gap,
been,
not a
like,
skill
Very
issue.
valuable
prohibitive.
caveman. Say it again, Fred.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think my
so bad.
eyesight would have been like prohibitive because
Yeah.
like okay, I'm a girl. I would be a. I mean, what do I do? Get the berries? I'm gonna give people fucking poisonous berries. Oh, you're all dead.
Women
Aw.
hunted. I don't know if I need
No,
to
I
be
know,
the
but I
one who
shouldn't
breaks
hunt
this
either.
spell for
Women
y'all,
did
but
shit.
like,
I shouldn't hunt
Yeah.
without my glasses either. You know.
true.
Mm.
You wouldn't hit shit. Anyway, so you can make cordage. You can wrap it around a stick and
You'd
dip
make
it in
rope,
oil,
Francie.
and you have a
You'd
torch.
make rope with me.
Fuck yeah, and have a great.
That's what we do. We'd be great rope makers. You don't have to see so super good for that. That's all manual dexterity. That just brain lock in.
So you could take rope. You can wrap it around a stick. You dip it in oil, and it will burn for several minutes. Then
Totally.
you knock it against something, you extinguish it, and you dip it again, and it'll burn again. Okay, so this is, you can also make a technology that developed at a similar sort of time, which is very the fuck long ago, is pottery. So you can make a pottery, just a bowl, fill the bowl with oil, and lay a piece of cordage over the side of the bowl. The oil will wick up just to explain what wicking is, the rope is dry, and so when you put it in, the oil wets it and flows up through capillary action. Then the fire consumes the oil and makes it dry again. So more oil flows up to continually wet it, and that is how a wick works. That's what wicking is.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So you can make this lamp, and there are they use these oil lamps to do the hieroglyphics in Egypt, okay?
Yeah.
They had they
needed
found
light to
lamp
draw
black.
it.
Lamp black is if you hold a spoon above a candle, you'll get black. That's a very, very pure atomic form of carbon. And so if you find lamp black, you know that they were using oil lamps, okay? You can trace
Yeah.
it very, very well there. So we had olive oil long
This is
thousands
olive
of
oil
years
they
before
used.
we had petrochemicals.
When carving
So
the
they-
hieroglyphics on the inside of the pyramids, they had olive oil lamps.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
And it was olive oil.
Yeah.
It wasn't like vegetable oil or canola oil.
Relatively close to Greece, relatively close to Italy, relatively close to Iraq, Sumer, where they were also growing olives. I think. God, I hope I'm right about that.
Spain, they got a lot of olives.
Yeah, relatively
Nice.
not
Good
far
for
from
them.
Egypt. So, yeah, so you can use olive oil to it's not a lot of light, but it's so convenient. And like Aladdin with the lamp, why does the lamp look like a pitcher? The stuff that lamp was supposed to be filled with when it wasn't full of Robin Williams is olive
Yeah.
oil. And a little piece of cordage would go up the spout and you'd light it on fire.
Oh, wow. And so you'd pull
Mm-hmm.
out, so as it went, you'd pull out the wick a little more from the
Correct,
lamp.
but it would only consume it very slowly.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, what's burning is not the wick, it's the olive oil.
Dude, it is crazy that Aladdin's lamp looks like a fucking watering can and not a lamp. I never
kettle.
thought about that.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. That's fucked. How did I... Wow. That's
So
a
was this
fucking
helpful then?
teacup. That was super helpful. Robin Williams was in a teacup, not a lamp, idiot.
I know, it's so weird. It's almost as bad, but it makes more sense. This one makes even less sense than the Disney version of fucking Sleeping Beauty pricking her finger on a spinning wheel, which doesn't even have a sharp part. That is just fucked. There's no sense to be made of that.
It is crazy calling it a spinning wheel. Yeah, wheels do that.
What else do wheels do?
Yeah,
It's
that's
like-
what
so
a wheel
funny.
does.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Dan, what was the first use of the wheel?
Probably to fucking probably to mix records, you know. That's
to like
probably it.
get in a tire and like roll down the hill, like when Like when
Yeah.
you end up
Yeah,
on Boo
probably.
Radley's doorstep.
Yeah, they take
So
they
at the
take
1
the
minute
caveman,
55
would
mark,
carve-
I've lost them.
like the big guy would, the biggest dude in the village would chisel out the wheel and the stone, and then they take all the kids and they take one kid at a time. They put him in the wheel and roll him down the hill, and then they get the biggest dude in the village down the hill to push that wheel back up, and that's what they did. Then the next kid gets to get in, then the next kid, and they get to do that all day.
You know what? You got it. That's it.
This is what the left doesn't want you to know.
Yeah,
This is what the
the
left
radical
doesn't want you
left
to know.
doesn't want you to get in a little wheel and roll down the hill in it.
Little wee.
Legalize wheel riding.
I'm not gonna tell you guys what the first application of the wheel was. You know why? Because you don't
Oh.
fucking deserve it.
No,
I've been treated unfairly.
Was it ceramics?
transportation?
It was. Dan's right.
Yeah, I knew it had to be something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah, because otherwise, why would I ask?
Yeah,
right?
then
If
they're
it was
like-
as a fucking
Yeah,
wheel.
yeah. Then it was like, wait a minute, why don't we take this and put it on the ground?
Someone turns it on his
Hey,
side.
wait a minute,
and they just,
wait.
their
Turn that
head
shit
explodes.
sideways. Turn that shit sideways. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get a couple of these
Yeah.
and take some of that oil.
Well, I think that was later.
Yeah.
And then the internal combustion engine was within our reach.
It was like pottery, Trojan horse, and then cars. Within,
Well,
like,
they
a
did
3-month
happen in those
period.
they did happen in that order, except the Trojan horse is probably not real.
Yeah.
Not in
I
like the
kind of
way
forgot
that you
about
Pottery?
that till I said it.
Pottery,
is real.
horses, Trojan. I have a list. Pottery, horses, Trojan horses, Trojans, the condom,
Yeah.
cars, and then Trojans used in
Wait,
cars.
did we wait? So we had condoms. We had Trojan
Oh, yeah.
condoms before we had cars. We didn't have
not
Trojans.
not Trojan condoms. We had
We had
that
the
kind of
little devices.
contraception before we had cars. Yeah.
No, well, you know what's crazy? Can I say something a little nasty? Like I've been
Get
thinking about
permission from
this.
Francie.
I've been thinking about this lately. Like, it ever hit you that like most sex by a lot, like 99.9% of all sex humans have had throughout their history has been like raw?
I don't know if that's true, to be clear.
No way.
Because there's so many more
different
people
forms
now.
of birth control too.
Like
yeah.
abstinence.
And
than
like
used
they were.
historically.
Yeah, Francie's right.
I mean,
like,
IDK.
there
Human history
are-
is so long, and we've been.
There are types of birth
modern
control that don't
times.
exist anymore.
Were they bad?
You know?
That's why
No,
we
they
just
were
got better ones?
plants.
Some of them made
They
you
were oral
infertile.
contraceptives that were plants, and they fucking went extinct because they fucked them to death.
Oh,
This is a
They
real
shouldn't
thing.
have done that.
So Romans
they
did it.
shouldn't have done that. They
The
shouldn't have done
fucking
that.
horny Romans.
I think some of
Yeah.
those plants also would make you not able to have children in the future.
I
I've
haven't heard that, but that's fascinating.
Okay, to be real, I read that in a fictional book. Now that I'm realizing, so that could be made up.
Mm.
Silphium is the name of the plant, and
Yeah.
it doesn't exist anymore because the Romans boinked it to death.
So, but the Romans were still like shooting in there.
Yeah. So if that's what you mean by raw, where there's no type of contraception, then I think you're almost certainly right.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway, I feel like that's a decent place to end.
Okay.
No, give you a last question.
So would they? When would STDs? When did we get STDs?
Oh, we've always had STDs.
The whole
As long
time?
as we've had S, we've had TDs.
And we've had S since before we were P.
It's true. Well said. I loved everything about that.
Yeah,
Let's
thanks.
just stop
I'll be here all
using
week.
words.
Yeah, just call it the letter.
Just the letters. Letters only.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Was This Helpful? I hope that it was helpful. I feel like that was our best one yet. I feel like we killed that. I'm so delighted by the two questions you guys brought.
Yeah, this is why
Yeah,
I
that's
wanted
fun.
Francie to ask her question first, because I knew mine was kind of dinky.